So I run a lot, and I run a lot with GoPros. I've tried other cameras. I've tried the Go 3, that's pretty good. I've tried GoPro Max, that sucked. I've tried the X3, it's okay. This is the X4. What's it like to run with the X4 from Insta360? Let's find out. You know, here's the headline. Before I shot this video, I had no idea just how much fun this would be to use. And I have used GoPro Maxes, I've used X3, I've used other 360 cameras. This is so much fun to use. It's so easy to shoot with, and what you get out of it is fantastic. There you go. What else do you want to know? Look, this is genuinely my view, my own video. I bought this myself. This isn't sponsored by anybody, actually. But before we get into the bits and bobs on the camera, I do want to talk a little bit about 360 cameras and the concept and why everyone's banging on about how important 8K is. The concept still of a 360 camera and how it works is still, I think, a bit alien to some people, and that's fine, but I imagine what that will also do is perhaps limit the possible market for a product like this. So here is my cut out and key easy guide to how a 360 camera works and why you should use it. Now, a 360 camera basically records everything around it, okay? So there are two lenses in a camera like this one. There's one on this side and there's one on this side, and they are 180-degree cameras. But these two camera lenses here are seeing everything around them, so in a sphere. So I think the best way to do it is imagine a ball. Well, not imagine a ball. Here is a ball, okay? Great restaurant, by the way, but again, this is not sponsored. So if you imagine the camera, right, is in the middle of this ball and is filming everything on the surface of this ball, so everything around it. When you then get back to your phone or to your desktop, Mac in my case, you can then select any piece of what it has filmed and put it in any aspect ratio and zoom in and rotate it any way you want. Let's say you shot this, and let's say you want a couple of dog paws, all right? Because bizarrely, there's dog paws all over this ball. Let's say you want these two dog paws here, okay? But you don't want them like this, you want them like this. So the first thing you do is you take this 360 image and you'd rotate it until those 2 feet are the angle you want. And you'd also then select, say, a 16:9 frame, which is what you're watching this video right now. Or you could do a vertical video or a 9:16, which in other words, you could rotate it that way and you could crop it that way. And then once you've done that, you could then rotate the angle around to see the logo of, in this case, a really cool bar in South Carolina. So I think they have a few of these around the place now. So you could do that, or you could rotate it at the top of the ball or down the ball, any way you like. The point is, any part of this is being recorded at any one time by that 360 camera in real time at the same time. Afterwards, you then select which bits of that ball you want to create as part of your clip. And you can do it for a bit, and then you can run it for a few seconds, and then you can cut to a different bit, and you can do some cool transitions, or you just cut it. All of that you can do in the software that comes with your 360 camera, which in the case of this is the Insta360 app for Android and Apple, and also the Insta360 Studio, which is Mac and PC. Everything you just saw in that video that I created when I did a run a couple of days ago was all done in that way. All of it was filmed on this camera. Most of it was in 360 mode, and then I selected which bits I wanted to see, whether it was the street in front of me, whether it was me above, whether it was behind me, not the most flattering angle for a man running, I can tell you, or any other angle, or just me running at all. So anyhow, there you go. You can select all of that stuff afterwards and do it in post-production. For day-to-day, okay, if you're filming yourself or you're filming your family, you could argue, well, why don't I just point the camera at the people I'm trying to film? And that does make sense. When it gets into extreme sports, and for me, running and cycling these days are about as extreme as I get, but when you're doing that, I don't need to be worried about which way this camera is pointing. I can focus on, in my case, not getting hit by other road users when I'm out cycling. But if you're doing more extreme things, you might be jumping off a cliff or jumping out of a plane or surfing or something like that. You don't want to be worrying about your camera. All you have to do really is have this pointing in some direction. Make sure you're not in the stitch line. We'll come on to that. And press record. And that's it. And then just keep going, just keep recording. And then you edit what you want to see in the video later on. Now, here's the problem with 360 cameras. And this camera kind of raises the bar significantly in this regard. And that's one thing that's important. When you do that reframing, the resolution of the final video is significantly reduced because most of the sphere that you've recorded is not actually used in the final shot. So you may have seen GoPro Max will talk about 5.6K. The Insta360 X4 will talk about 5.7K. And that sounds awesome. And now with the X4, we have 8K. 8K recording, that's fantastic. Well, who uses 8K, really? In the consumer world, that's you and me, who uses 8K? The point with a 360 camera is you're going to dump most of that resolution and most of that detail when you reframe the shot. So here's a way to liken this, and this doesn't involve using a ball. Pick a photo on your phone right now, Android or iPhone, doesn't matter. Pick a photo, zoom in, pinch and zoom in, and keep zooming in, and you will lose resolution as you are zooming in. That's the same principle with 360 footage when you're reframing it. It's the same as zooming into a photograph on your cell phone, except the 360 footage is probably going to be a lot worse than what you're seeing on your cell phone. So the reason you need 8K or higher, or the highest resolution possible, is to give you as much detail and information as possible in that 360 image so that when you reframe and effectively crop in, you're still left with something that doesn't look mushy. That's a technical term for you. Now, 360 cameras up to now have been very limited in resolution. A 360 camera shooting in 5.6K or 5.7K might produce a reframed video clip at 1080p or perhaps even a lower resolution. 1080p, we used to call that high definition, 20 years ago now. So unless your lighting is perfect, your footage is not going to look very good after you've reframed it. Now, if you take that same approach with the X4 and its 8K footage at 30 frames a second, reframing still loses most of that resolution, but generally the reframed video that you're left with is more in the region of 2.7K. What I'm recording right now is 4K. So the fact that I can now take 360 footage from the X4, reframe it, get something at 2.7K, that's not a million miles away from 4K, and I'm confident now I can start using those clips without looking like I've really compromised on the image quality when I use a 360 camera shot in one of my videos. Okay, so let's go for a quick spec rundown. If you're watching this video, I'm flattered and I appreciate it, but I imagine you've watched a few videos already from some of those big influencers out there. You've probably gone through this already, so I'll be real quick. So this has 8K, 30 frames a second recording. It can also do 5.7K and 4K and 1080p. It has dual half-inch sensors. That's one behind each of these cameras. These are, I think, f1.9 lenses. There's a much larger touchscreen here that is a massive improvement on the previous one. It's very, very responsive. There's a massive improvement also on the battery. The battery life is pretty incredible compared to the camera before it. The microphones have been improved. There's now some support for Bluetooth microphones. There's a proper lens guard system on here. There's improved audio recording. And really, apart from the batteries, the dive case, and the lens guards, you can use just about any other existing X3 accessory or mount system that you already own with this camera. For $499 in the US, in the box, you get the X4, you get one battery, you get a USB-C charging cable that you can also use as a data cable. But if you look in the bottom of the box, which I didn't do when I got this, you'll also find a set of standard lens guards, the plastic ones, and a soft case. Now there's other combo kits out there too with different bits according to what you're doing, like cycling and whatnot. That resolution bump also opens up other options too. Bullet time was always a cool feature of the X3. But in my opinion, it wasn't really usable for published videos because the bullet time video that you got was 1080p. Now it is. Now it's usable and it's super fun to use. As you see, I used it a few times in this video. I don't think I'd normally use bullet time that often, but being able to speed it up, slow it down, use it at different angles, use it while moving, and still get video quality that is more than acceptable, I found out actually using it quite a lot. Me mode is another mode which was on the X3 before and gave you 1080p footage. Now it's 4K here on the X4, and me mode is using one lens, but it enables you to remove the selfie stick while you're only using one lens. So you can treat it more like a standard action camera. Kind of one of the features of a 360 camera is being able to remove that selfie stick. Now, I don't intend to use the audio from the X4 very often because most of the clips I will do are in the sequence you just saw. But the very beginning of that was using the internal microphones, and frankly, I think they're good enough to use. You can also connect some Bluetooth microphones to X4, including the wireless mic 2 from DJI. I do have that, but I haven't tried it yet. Other features I haven't tried are gesture control and voice control. GoPro has had voice control for years, and the DJI Spark drone, which is, what was that, 7 years ago? That had gesture control. Hardly use that either. So it's nothing really new, and I'm not getting too excited about it. But the ability to be able to start and stop recording by holding it in your hand might be useful to you. There are 4 buttons on the camera. There's a power button, the shutter button, the quick button, and the menu button. You can customize 2 of those. So I have the quick button set to selecting the different shooting modes, which otherwise I'd have to go onto the screen to do, and the menu button to be able to switch quickly between 360 and also the single lens shooting as well. Now, this is very robust, and I am not going to test it, but I've accidentally tested other Insta360 products recently, Go3 specifically. It's bounced around on the floor when I've been out running, similar to what I was doing the other day with this, and it's handled those knocks very, very well. But what Go3 does not have is 2 lenses sticking out on it. You can put lens guards on this. So far, I've not done that. What I choose to do is this here, this bit of silicone, is actually a lens cap, and it just pushes on over the top like that. I actually, when I went out running with this, I actually took it out with that cap on, and I just literally pulled it off, took the shots I was going to take, and then put it back on again while I was running. So, you know, this is going to protect those lenses. It doesn't protect the screen. You could put a screen protector on there, but I'm not a fan of screen protectors. But anyway, that at least protects the lenses. Because a 360 camera, it can be the toughest mother out there, but you have 2 very prominent lenses, and any scratches or marks or any other damage to these lenses is going to show up in your video, and effectively it's going to ruin your 360 footage. For just under $30 here in the US, Insta360's FlexiCare will provide 2 replacements for accidental damage within 1 year, and you get a replacement camera, which I imagine is going to be refurbished on you. I don't know, but anyway, that gives me peace of mind. I have the same with GoPro Plus, and I have used it. Haven't had to use it so far with Insta360, but I'm very glad I've got it on the X4 because it gives me more confidence to use the camera more frequently rather than look at a situation and go, I'm going to be doing a cycling video soon. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to see while I'm doing that. Having this hanging off the back of a bike close to the road without that FlexiCare coverage, that would be a brave thing to do. So what don't I like about this camera? There's only one thing really, and it's an annoyance, but let me tell you what that is. The X3, the Go3, and other camera devices and microphones as well have haptic feedback. So when you touch the screen or you interact with them on the screen or the buttons, you get that little vibration to let you know that it's happening. My Phoenix 7X does it as well. They've taken it out of X4. This does not have any haptic feedback at all. That's a shame. And it's not because it's a cool thing to do, but when this camera's on a selfie stick and I'm just running, now when I go cycling this is more important, if you're motorcycling or skiing it's important too, I'm not going to have to rely on this LED, there's also one on the other side, blinking to confirm to me that it is recording or it's not recording. I can't rely anymore on the feel of the camera as I press the button. Now, this is an annoyance. This is not as bad as GoPro taking GPS out of Hero 12, which I really think was a really, really bad move on GoPro's part. But it's really annoying that they've done it, because they've either done it to save weight, more likely, since this thing's heavier, they've done it to save costs, or they've done it so they can talk about these great extended battery life. Whatever the reason is, I get really annoyed when cool, fun features are taken away from devices in the hope that we won't notice. Because we have. Okay, now in case it's not obvious, I've had so much fun with this already. And this is me, a grown man, having fun on my own with a camera. Now, you can still tell the footage is from a 360 camera. People still have that slight avatar look to them. Now, there is a de-warp setting on Insta360 on the X4 and also in Studio. That does go a long way to minimize this, but because of that, this is not going to replace my GoPro Hero 12 when I'm looking to get the very best possible image quality from something like an action camera. That compromise on image quality compared to a regular action camera has really been closed fast by X4. It's a major step in the right direction, and it's now good enough, as I say, for me to consider using it more frequently than any 360 camera before it. This means that this is going to have a place to capture action footage for me, running, cycling, and hiking. Running and cycling with the GoPro requires thoughts on camera placement, direction of shot. Not always a good idea when you're trying to avoid potholes and other road users when you're cycling. With the X4, you just set this up in place and press record and leave it. So should you buy it? There are two scenarios here. One, if you already have an X3 or an earlier camera, and two, if you have not entered the 360 world at this point. If you have an X3, and certainly if you have a GoPro Max or an X2, this is such a step up in image quality. That alone is enough for me to say, yes, it's worth the upgrade. If, on the other hand, you've always been hesitant to consider 360 cameras, and my description with the ball earlier on didn't put you off, I really think the combination of the X4 hardware and the Insta360 software, there's no longer a reason for you to hesitate. I think this could be the good time to enter the 360 world. That lack of haptic feedback, I can live without that. It's an annoyance. The only real threat to this camera's success, in my opinion, is the next generation of GoPro Max. GoPro Max is now almost 5 years old and hasn't had a firmware update since 2020. A GoPro CEO has stated that Max 2 is coming later this year. If it does, and it matches the performance of X4, I think it's going to fail. Insta360 and DJI have done an excellent job at convincing loyal GoPro users, and frankly, I've been one of them, to like, try, and use their products. If GoPro, previously the innovator in this market space, become the follower instead of the other players in the market, and they come up with something that's just a me too compared to this, I really don't think it's going to be successful. Now, if on the other hand a GoPro Max 2 comes out that can reframe footage that is then in 4K, well then the bar will be raised once again, and then that puts this camera perhaps at risk. So that's it. I will be doing more videos with the X4, cycling and hiking, and maybe some other stuff too. If that's of interest, please do hit that subscribe button, and if you like this video, please do hit the like button as well. My name is Julian. If I can run with it, bike with it, hike with it, or film with it, I will make videos about it and put it here on YouTube. If that is of interest to you, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you as always for watching. Really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.